There are several ingredients in making a movie, just like your favorite dish and not so favorite dish. You'll notice when you eat your dish, there are several flavors you taste, but the end product of how everything comes together determines how much you enjoyed it, or not. The same goes for movies. If we look at a simplified movie organization chart, you'll see that there are many things involved into making one. It's a big project, but we won't be going through the whole chart. We'll be taking the end product, the movie, and show you what every viewer should at least notice. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll notice a lot more of what goes on when you watch your next movie or well-crafted TV show. In a movie, there are so many things going on even in the simplest of scenes, but we'll break it down to 8 things, some of which are obvious and others less obvious. The first thing you should notice or eventually be aware of is the plot and story. Some of you may think these are the same, but they are not. The plot are the main events making up the movie, and the story are all the events happening from beginning to end. Not convinced? Ask Martin Scorsese.
About the difference between story and plot.
Held up longer for me over the years, not because of plot, but because of character and a very different approach to story, you know?
Not only should you know what the gist of the movie is, but you should also be aware of how every scene unfolds for you, the viewer. Take these movies for example. We know what's going to happen from the trailers, and it's a relatively simple plot, but how it unfolds is something entirely different, something really special. The second thing to note are the characters. Every movie needs a character. While you can add the weather and the surrounding elements as a character, which helps create the mood and situation, we won't count those. Note the importance of the characters in telling the story or being in the scene at hand. You should see which characters really stand out and which doesn't. Screen time doesn't always equate importance and strength of characters. There are some scenes where the least noticed character with less screen time has a much bigger impact to viewers. You'll see these with movies that have relatively simple plots. They are almost always character driven. The third thing to note are the actors. Just like the story giving the plot life, the actors are the ones that gives the characters life. Were they able to connect with you on a human and emotional level? Their acting and performance should draw you into the character they are playing without you even noticing it. Take note if you actually forget that they're the famous actors you know. If you find that the actor and character they are portraying are one and the same, then the actor has done their job. The fourth thing to notice is the cinematography. How does a camera flow, move, and pan? Think of it as a window presenting to you what's going on in the movie. Color is another part of cinematography. Try and notice the color tones used in the movie. You'll find the color tones change depending on what and where it's being shown. Like an artist's painting, they might use warmer or colder colors depending on what emotion and feeling they are trying to draw. In this example, you'll notice the original scene has a blue hue to depict coldness. When compared to the right, when we gave it a warmer tone, it doesn't look quite right. Conversely, you'll see the same thing here in Mad Max Fury. It just doesn't seem that hot in the desert with a blue tone. Cinematographers play with tones a lot. Like this example in The Matrix, you'll notice the green tones throughout the movie depicting vintage monochrome green monitors, which implies you're kind of trapped inside a computer. The fifth thing to notice is the soundtrack or sound, or in some cases, no sound. Silence is an effective use of sound techniques. Note too how you like the music selection and if it fits the scenes and enhances the mood. Sound effects are included here too, from explosions to cricket noises. Take note of all the sounds you hear in the movie. If you've watched any Star Trek TV series, did you ever notice the constant ambient engine noise when they're in the ship? The sixth thing to notice is the production design. Production design includes the wardrobe, the location, the prop replicas, and equipment you see all around. It also includes the practical effects as well as the special effects, which nowadays comprise of a lot of CGI. It's the visual eye candy that hugs and surrounds the actor. This is probably the most obvious and less obvious thing you see. Nothing is accidental on what you visually see here. Everything is crafted to be that way, from the colors of the items to the lack of colors. In this example here, it's not by chance they stopped the car at this location. Nice Mustang in the background. In this laundromat scene, Have you ever seen anyone drawing bright, wonderful colors separately? Everything is or should be picture perfect. The seventh thing to notice is the execution, which is basically how all the 6 things I just showed you were pieced together. This can also be called the editing process. How was the pacing and rhythm of the movie? How did the scenes switch from one to the next? The director usually has a big hand in this because this is when he or she now has to stitch everything to make the final movie. This is probably the most difficult thing in a movie because editing can change the feel of it. This is a good reason why we now have the director's cut and even final cut when the movie hits DVDs. The 8th and the last thing you should note is, well, how you feel. We call this a movie's emotional impact. So tell me, how did you feel after watching it? Did it make you laugh, cry, angry, annoyed? If the movie made you feel what they had intended you to feel, then they've done their job. And there you have it. The 8 parts I presented to you is what I'd like to call the 8mm of film. Now you should start seeing things that you hadn't noticed before. You may even develop a heightened awareness of what works and what doesn't work for you in a movie, which should make you now an honorary film critic. If you enjoyed this, please remember to subscribe and please share this link to your friends. I would also like to invite you to check out fadviews.com and start rating movies in this fashion. Until next time, thanks for watching.